The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge, your entrances are bullshit. Ryan Luis Rodriguez presiding. I really should have read that before entering the courtroom. We all rise for the Honorable Judge Rodriguez.
Well, that was belabored. Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice. Today we are hearing the case of The People vs. Red Notice, a 2021 high-stakes action comedy, citation needed, that follows an FBI profiler as he teams up with a notorious art thief to track down rare artifacts and clear his name. For those of you unfamiliar with our court proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always, in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Mr. Noah Charney, you're representing the prosecution. You may present your opening statement.
Well, I am interested in this film, of course, because I'm a specialist in art crime. I've been called the world's leading expert in the history of art crime, so I get asked about real-life cases all the time. And then there are great art theft movies, lots of fun ones. This one I approached very optimistically because I like Dwayne Johnson. I like Ryan Reynolds. I like, caper movies, heist movies. I like movies that zip around the planet with interesting action sequences. I like double, twists and double crosses and things that are going to surprise me as a viewer. And this tried to do all of that, but it did it at a way that I found to be superficial and annoying in its inaccuracies. And I've got a long laundry list of inaccuracies here, both in terms of location, in terms of how real life criminal investigation works, in terms of how art theft historically in all the cases we know of works. And it got pretty much everything you could imagine wrong. Now, as a viewer, you don't necessarily notice that if you're not a specialist. And to me, that's extra annoying because then it misinforms the public. This was the same problem I had if we go back to the Da Vinci Code. The book, the film, this was a novel that I enjoyed reading and couldn't put down, but I was annoyed in almost every chapter because it was so full of inaccuracies that didn't seem to augment the plot. They just seemed to be mistakes. But they were presented in a way that readers, if they didn't know any better, would think that they're real facts or even hidden secrets that everybody in the know knows, but the general public isn't aware of. So it was really in a proactive way misinforming its audience while entertaining. Entertainment's great, a novel, a fictional film, you can do anything you like, but if you're going to stray from reality, I want to see a rationale for it that is linked to the plot. I don't want to feel like someone just hasn't done their homework. And so it was very much a skin deep film to me. And it just didn't have all of the things that I wanted in a great heist film. I wasn't surprised by the double crosses. I saw them coming. I thought that the dialogue was witty, but it was Ryan Reynolds just playing Ryan Reynolds as he's done in so many films. And I like him, but you could predict what character he was going to play long before the opening credits. And there was some very bad acting on the part of Gal Gadot. I'm afraid she's lovely to look at, but she's not much of an actress. And, just so unrealistic that I was bothered by the fact that it's going to misinform people. So that'd be my opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Charney. And may I ask, is the Thomas Crown Affair one of the good heist movies?
The Thomas Crown Affair is the best and one I'd recommend most of all the art heist movies. It's really good. It cheats only once in the whole movie, and the rest of it is remarkably accurate if we keep in mind that it is promoting a misconception about art theft, that there are professional art thieves, which there are not, and that there are criminals proactively collecting stolen art or commissioning the theft of art, which there have been so few of in known history. I could think of about 24 in contrast to tens of thousands of reported art thefts worldwide every year, that it's a negligible number. However, criminals are watching the same movies we are, hopefully reading the same books we are. That's very optimistic. But so criminals are often caught by police pretending to be these cliche criminal collectors who don't really exist in real life. And the thieves fall for it with some regularity. So there's a benefit to understanding the limited knowledge of the criminals, which is primarily from film. And if we know that that's all they know about art and art crime, then we can use that to our advantage from the criminal apprehension side.
Awesome.
Excellent.
That's
Appearing
cool.
on behalf of the defense is Mr. Maynard Bangs. Please present your opening statement.
Know your role and shut your mouth, jabroni. I mean, Your Honor. Distinguished members of the court, that shriveled up piece of monkey turd Maynard Bangs has asked that I make the opening statement on his behalf. Me, 5-time WWXYWFW heavyweight champion, The Stone. An intellectually distinct, discernibly Caucasian personality. Now, The Stone has been hearing rumors. Little birds have been chirping, hushed whispers in the hallways. There's some big shot prosecutor in town. A real big swinging one, if you know what The Stone means. And he's got his whittle sights set on a movie goes by the name of Red Notice. A movie starring a very personal friend of The Stones, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Now, The Rock and The Stone, we go way back, Jack. We had our first match in a maternity ward in 1972. Chief J. Strongbow was the guest timekeeper. It ended in a double disqualification for illegal use of a foreign binky. So when The Stone says he and The Rock go way back, you better believe it. So when The Stone hears some piece of trailer park trash calling himself a prosecutor. What was your name again?
Dr. Noah
It
Charney. None of
doesn't
this
matter
Mr.
what
business.
your name is. Noah Charney, more like no attorney. Now, here's what's going to happen. The Stone is going to go out there among the dozens and dozens of the Stones fans. He's going to raise the intellectually distinct eyebrow. He's going to drop the intellectually distinct elbow, and he's going to lay the justice down on your candy ass. If you grasp what the Stone is elucidating.
Oh, God.
I
That was,
get it.
Wow.
that was a lot more sizzled in steak than Noah's.
Wow. I guess.
see-
Thank you, Mr. Bangs.
This happens to him on podcasts all the time, I'm sure. No.
Mr. Charney, you may proceed with your first exhibit.
Okay, so let's start with the opening scene. Opening scenes are very important in films because they provide this hook. You decide very quickly whether you're going to like the film or not. Usually we decide within the first 15 seconds or so if we're intrigued, and then we give it about one scene for us to determine whether we're going to keep on watching, or if we're in this all-you-can-eat streaming world, there are just too many options out there, and you have to be grabbed right away. Otherwise, you're just going to skip to the next one because you have unlimited choices. So I like the international locations. I like the fact that we're in Rome. I lived in Rome for quite a long time. I love the city. I love Castle Sant'Angelo. And it was filmed outside of Castle Sant'Angelo, but as soon as you go in, it ain't Castle Sant'Angelo anymore. And that already annoys me. Now, I know you don't have to be true to the aesthetics of the places you're supposed to be filming, but if you bother to film on location, I don't see a particular benefit in then switching to a set. As soon as you walk in, you see Botticelli's Birth of Venus on the wall. That's not even in Rome. That's in Florence in the Uffizi Museum, and that's not going anywhere on loan. And then we have this funny story about Cleopatra's eggs. So it's absolutely fine if you want to invent a relic or an artifact that is going to be the primary target here. We had this nice opening credits sequence of somebody forging an egg. The egg looked... I know it's supposed to be like an ancient version of a Fabergé or something, but it really looked like one of those things that you would find in an Italian cheap supermarket at Christmas that's made of chocolate and has like candies inside.
Delicious.
It didn't look like anything that anyone would want to collect.
I mean, nothing that
and-
old would look as pristine. I mean, especially the ones that were out in collections. I don't would they look that
That's certainly true.
Yeah,
that is absolutely true. And then
I would like to make one objection, just a step backwards. You did mention the first scene. The first scene, they're not in anywhere. The first scene is like the Ancient Aliens documentary, which I loved. It was, and it's because it's narrated by the Ancient Aliens narrator. He also does Curse of Oak Island. All my favorite shows, all the crazy conspiracy shit. And that's your first clue, right? They're contextualizing this artifact, because if Robert Clotworthy, that's the narrator's name, if he's narrating your documentary, probably your thing's bullshit, right? Like that's how do we wave a flag that this thing's bullshit? Have Clotworthy narrate it. You know, he narrates all the crazy stuff.
This is good. In a courtroom, you would have fooled me and gotten me off balance, because I didn't know who the narrator was, because I'm not watching that show enough. But I will counter
You're
with this.
smart.
I have been on Ancient Aliens.
Sweet.
I'm not sure if I'm proud of this or not, but
Noah, you're now my favorite guest we've ever had. You're number one top.
Are you conceding right now?
We're so close to getting the Ancient Aliens guy now. We're one step away.
Man, I'm sure he's gonna come on.
Have I seen you on that? I'm gonna have to go back.
It's possible. I appeared on the episode about Leonardo da Vinci, and I said I'm happy to appear if I don't have to talk about aliens. So and I'm the guy talking just about Leonardo da Vinci in an Ancient Aliens show, and it's one of those things. I
didn't want to pull us on Ancient Aliens, but that is what's great about Ancient Aliens. Very rarely do they ever talk about aliens. Instead, they show you a bunch of cool shit and then make up a bunch of stuff, but you get to see the cool shit.
Very rarely.
Okay, I already like the film more now that you told me that. So now I'm thrown off my
job. I'm doing my job, folks, in real time.
Okay, if we understand that the filmmakers are beginning with this tongue-in-cheek approach, then it forgives a lot of what comes next. So I think I was just maybe approaching it with the idea that they were trying to be more accurate, when in fact they were trying to sort of spoof it up. If that's the case, then I might pull back my prosecutional.
I would less say spoof as it's definitely a comedy. You're supposed to laugh. I mean,
sure, absolutely.
This is not a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movie with Ryan Reynolds. It's a Ryan Reynolds movie with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. The whole tenor and humor is Ryan Reynolds. And if you don't like Ryan Reynolds, I'll go into this in one of my points. Sure. But if you don't like Ryan Reynolds, I mean, you're screwed. But you don't like Van Halen, don't go to a Van Halen concert, right?
Well, we didn't really have a choice in this matter.
You never have choices, and that doesn't matter. Don't make me get the stone back out here.
Oh man.
So, okay, if this is a Ryan Reynolds movie, then I still feel like he could have had a similar effect while getting some of the details right, because it did not benefit the plot, the sort of things they got wrong.
The things that bugged me are the things that they could have gotten right. Like you mentioned that, like what was in Florence instead of Rome.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you say?
Botticelli's Birth of Venus painting, yeah?
Yeah, love that one. Got it. I got a...
Now, one thing that, should I start in with some of the things they got wrong, or should I hold off?
No, go for it.
No, hit me with what you got wrong, because what bugs me is the stuff you can get right when you get it wrong. Okay, that does suck.
Yeah, that's
what's nice about inventing the egg, right? We can't get facts wrong. They're made up.
It's invented. Yep, that's true. So, okay, one thing that loads of films get wrong, and I have to think at a certain point that filmmakers understand that the public doesn't know this, and they just run with it because it's very, very easy to find out. But Interpol has no field agents. Mm-hmm. Interpol stands for an international police organization, and it is a data gathering and coordination service. So Interpol coordinates various national police forces so that they're in touch with each other and share information. But you get loads of films with an Interpol agent chasing bad guys, and that just doesn't exist. But the general public thinks it does because they've seen it in so many films. So this is maybe
now objection here, Noah. Are we not doing a benefit to society by convincing people that there might be a really powerful global police force that might be able to prevent them from committing crimes? Don't we want them to be under that impression?
Are you telling me that Ocean's 12 is a lie? Because I'm not gonna tolerate that.
I actually thought about choosing Ocean's 13 for this podcast, although I liked it more than this film. I thought it was more fun.
You better be back. Noah.
We've done 8 and both 11s.
Oh, then we should totally do that
in the future.
No, we're not doing 13. No,
especially now that Ryan doesn't want to.
We'll get it scheduled in. We'll get a pencil in.
How does September look?
So I could see,
I agree with you.
argument.
Now let's go back to this point, and it's kind of to your opening point. Interpol agents don't act like this. Art thieves, they don't act like this. But this is the world of magic, like of movie magic. Like NYPD cops don't look and act like Will Smith and Men in Black. They don't go running and chasing and jumping over fence. A lot of them aren't like that. Movies project these fantasy characters, and it's not reality. And again, if there was any doubt in that, that's immediately put aside by the very first opening scene, where we are inventing an artifact that doesn't exist. We're not living in exactly this world. We're living in some alter world where apparently Interpol does have field agents, and art thieves is a job.
I think that's a reasonable counter argument.
And just because you don't know any professional art thieves just means they didn't catch them yet.
Okay, that's entirely possible. I suppose you may be right. But when I first started studying this, I had the thesis statement that I would like to profile art thieves. That was literally what my PhD started out seeking to do. And after a few months, I realized that there's no such thing as a professional art thief. There's hardly any thieves who have stolen art more than once. There are a few who like to call themselves professional art thieves because it sounds very sexy because of all those films. But in fact, art is stolen by general members of organized crime groups or the occasional kleptomaniac. And almost never has there been anyone who stole art on multiple occasions. And there have been just a few thieves who have stolen art who actually liked art or knew anything about it. So this is another thing where if I were not a specialist in this field, I would have no problem with the film. Well, and I think that there are a lot of films no problem. We can go into what the filmic issues I had with it.
I just want to make one small objection to that point. Back in the 30s and 40s, there were movies with astronauts, but there were no astronauts, not yet. But it gave us something to go and gain, to want to live up to. So if we put professional art thieves in our movies, maybe people will want to grow up to be professional art thieves.
We need a disclaimer for the show.
I would perhaps question whether that's a desirable outcome, but I see your point.
I mean, sexy ones. If you're not sexy,
if they're sexy, then anything goes.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Thank you. That is the thesis statement of my defense, actually.
So I think my objections are going to be the idea that it is continuing the misinformation of a lot of films in this genre, which is not to say that I don't necessarily want to pick on it just because it's doing what other films have done in the past, but it's so easy to get these things right. And it would vastly improve the viewing experience for me. It's like one of these things where if in passing you hear some fact that you just know is wrong, but it's going to annoy you even if it doesn't really alter the plot. For example, going back to the Da Vinci Code, in the book, there's a scene where one of the heroes pulls the Mona Lisa off of the wall of the Louvre and uses it as a shield so that the security guards aren't going to shoot him. And it describes his shoulder pushing through the canvas. The Mona Lisa is painted on a wooden panel. Now, 1% of readers are going to know that. But this reader, I found it super annoying, and it was like a thing among art historians that this is total bullshit.
Dude, it means that wasn't the real Mona Lisa.
See, I found it annoying because I don't like the Da Vinci Code, but that's just me.
I think it means that I know the level of research from Dan Brown books because I was once asked to do an article about the mistakes in Dan Brown's Inferno. And I came up with about 20 of them in the first few chapters, and then I ran out of space in the article. And also, I know it from this reason. The organization I founded, it's the research group on art crime called ARCA, is mentioned in Dan Brown's Inferno, which is nice. But then he has one sentence about it, which is the sentence that's from our website. So that is about the level of depth his research goes. He Googles a little bit and transcribes what was on the first website hit, and boom, move on to the next thing.
You should have gotten into IT.
Do you have any rebuttals to that, Mr. Bangs?
No, there's clearly inaccuracies about both art thievery, theft, and apparently Interpol type work. They definitely could have Googled these things. Like I said, that's definitely going to bother a specialist. It didn't bother me because I don't know it, and most of the audience, I think, doesn't. I bet oil drillers fucking hate Armageddon, but I just sit there and I'm entertained.
Yeah, I mean, that's a reasonable counter argument to any of this stuff. We have to decide whether our objections are going to be, this could have been significantly better very easily, but it seems a bit lazy on the part of the filmmakers that it wasn't. Or whether it's something that, your general reader who doesn't have any background and is just looking to be entertained, whether they would like it or not. And I can come up with arguments why, from just a filmmaking standpoint, it was quite formulaic and could have been better than it was. But that's setting aside the factual inaccuracies. So maybe factual inaccuracies are exhibit A for me, and then filmic laziness is maybe section B.
Well, then let's get to section B, shall we?
Okay. So we have a lot of fun one-liners, particularly doled out by Mr. Reynolds, who is famous for them, and I like him in just about everything. The objection that I have, I mean, if you're going to see a Ryan Reynolds film and you're expecting it, that's fine. I thought some of them were funny, but they seemed to be the primary vehicle for entertainment in the film, because the action sequences were very predictable, and the twists that attempted to be twists in other films are hugely successful. I found the twists in the Ocean's series that we mentioned, like Ocean's 12 in particular, the newer version, were really well done. Thomas Crown Affair is, absolutely top of the line in this. You have famous movies with twists like The Usual Suspects, LA Confidential. These are films where the twists feel masterful, and as soon as they happen, you want to go back and watch the film over again. As soon as these twists happen, I had predicted them a mile away, and I felt the screenwriters getting together and saying, we need to put in a couple twists here. What are we going to do? And then they work backwards from the end and say, okay, we're going to make them a couple in the end. Okay, we're going to make it so they have to team up. Okay, we're going to make it so what seems to be the good guy is arrested, and then he turns out to be the bad guy, even though we thought he's the good guy. These are things that are so formulaic and were done in a way that I found ineffective and eye-rolling. And by contrast, if I'd only seen this movie, maybe fair enough, but if I've seen really good versions of it, then this to me feels more like amateur hour. And just like an entertainment vehicle, somebody said it at Netflix, give me The Rock, give me Ryan Reynolds, give me something peppy, caper film, let's do it, screw it. And that's what it felt like, and that's what I think it probably was.
Mr. Bangs,
I 100%
here to
agree
defend
with,
the twist.
I 100% agree with that, at least that description of the movie. That's my defense. We're going to put three of the most beautiful stars we can, who people just seem to go in droves to see their movie. We're going to put them in one movie. What kind of movie? That doesn't matter as much. We'll go into that a little bit when it's my time. Now, the twist. I actually didn't see the twist coming. I didn't. I was immediately suspicious of The Rock. As soon as he's on screen, I was suspicious of him. He wasn't acting right, and I thought he and the partner, Das, I thought they were in cahoots, and they were going to be somehow art thieves, and this whole thing was a con. So I thought the opening scene was the heist. And then as the movie went on and on, I got lured into the confidence. I forgot about it. He said a few sketchy things, which they flashed back, but I just kind of shrugged them off. So when they get together in the end, I go, oh, okay. All right. Well, I didn't really see it coming, but the other thing is, I mean, this is a launch pad movie, right? I mean, this is the thing about the title of the movie, right? This movie is forward thinking. The title Red Notice, it's a reference to the red notice Interpol places on the three main characters. They don't get that to the end of the movie, right? Mm-hmm. So the movie's called Red Notice. They don't get it to the end. So this is, I would say, about building to the future Red Notice franchise. This is how the three get together, the unlikely hero. So how do you get them all three together? Of course, they're going to put the one woman and man in a love situation. Of course, I'm sure it'll be some weird kind of throuple thing by the next movie that they'll make jokes about. They'll make jokes. You love throuples, and so I think it's very forward thinking. The twist is just about getting them together. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said the humor is the driving point of this, and I agree. The humor, the performances. I don't think the action sequences are too bad. Like the chase in the Nazi car is kind of interesting where they make the escape. But yeah, I mean, this is not a movie that's driven by its plot or its story. Absolutely not. It's a movie star vehicle.
Right at the end, just before the credits roll, they're about to walk in and steal something from the Louvre. So it's very obviously setting up for a sequel.
And they walk in three directions for some reason.
Yeah. No one will suspect them because they all come in at different entries.
The trident formation, dude. It never fails in heist movies. You have to go in different directions.
So if you want to go to the Argentina sequence at the end, this is something that I also was, this is knowing too much about a subject, but they introduced this made-up character, Rudolf Zeig, as Hitler's art dealer. And it's based on...
What an evil job.
It's based on a real person, Hermann Bunjes, who was Hermann Göring's art dealer.
They should have just used the real guy then.
They should have, I know. And maybe there's some sort of like a copyright on his name, or his estate wasn't happy about it. But
a Nazi family's estate.
Yes, the Nazi family's estate. I love it.
I'm sorry.
So
he's probably rolling in his grave right now.
I like that they have that, but this is one of those things where you don't have to make up someone. But then again, you have your ancient aliens narrator, so maybe there's just this: the tongue is in the cheek the whole time. In which case, I missed that.
I think they're Greeking that stuff up so that they don't have to risk getting stuff wrong. Obviously, they're bad at getting stuff right. They can't even put fucking statues in the right museums, so they know they're incompetent. So they're just like, let's make up as much as we can. People can't call us out on made up bullshit. I mean, it isn't a documentary, so.
And I like some of the filmic references, like at the end, the reference to Indiana Jones and the Ark of the Covenant, the end sequence, which was directly quoted when they go into the secret Nazi art loot hoard in Argentina.
That's great. I'd also like I did want to mention one other is to me, the final scene when they're on the boat and Ryan Reynolds shows up, that to me, that's Wild Things all day. Which is one of the best movies, one of the best twist movies. It's like 16 twists and Wild Things. It's great.
I like those references. That's something that I really appreciate. But it's also one of those things where, like, if you're wise enough to include these references, why not get other things right? It's this combination of moments of you're like, this is clever, with most of it where you're like, really? So for the Argentina thing, there are in fact numerous lost stashes of Nazi art that have been found, and many that have not been found yet. We'll have a whole book called The Museum of Lost Art, which details some of them. And I've filmed several TV shows in Altasee, which is in the Austrian Alps, and it has a salt mine that was converted into a secret Nazi stolen art warehouse.
You've never been on Expedition Unknown, have you?
I was supposed to, and then they canceled on me. That was one of the shows supposed to be in. But for instance, I hosted the official Nat Geo tie-in to the Monuments Men film. There was a documentary. Cool. And then there's a couple of, there was an episode of, is it Forgotten History, or I don't even know, something on Discovery Channel that we filmed in that mine as well. So there's really cool stuff. So the only thing is that there's none of that in Argentina, because the reason for Nazi stolen art or treasure caches is they were hiding what they looted from Europe. There was no looting done in South America as far as we know. And it was to be hidden until the Nazis won the war. And so the idea that it would have been shipped en masse to Argentina is preposterous, but the idea of these Nazi art bunkers is real. So it's like, it's getting halfway there, but a lot of people will have heard of Nazi art bunkers and then say, okay, maybe. So maybe there's one in the middle of the jungle in Argentina. So again, we're halfway there. I think it's a halfway there film. I'm not like upset by its existence.
Hey, but now you've got me living on a prayer.
Speak for yourself, man. Speak for yourself.
You've got me living on a prayer.
I want to hear the judge's view of this. I think the judge has already made a judgment.
Later.
You'll hear it. You'll hear it. Don't worry about it. You'll hear.
Oh, man.
But do you have any further exhibits, Mr. Charney?
There's little niggly things like The Rock's flight out of Rome is in an hour, but he's still in the middle of Rome at a bar getting a drink. It takes an hour and a half to get to the Rome airports for the center. I would have hightailed it out of there. So I was already suspicious because of that, because either they don't know how busy it is to get to the Rome airports, or he knew he was going to get arrested. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt that he knew he was going to get arrested.
Yeah. He positively knew he was getting arrested. He knew everything that was going to happen because he's working with Godot. He handed the egg off to Godot. Godot probably handed him off the replica, or they somehow otherwise swapped it. So, I mean, they were in communication the entire time. They screen the movie, doesn't show it, but I'm assuming she does some sort of organization to get The Rock put in the cell with Reynolds for sure. Because to rely on DOS just doing it out of spite is not very concrete. So I would hope that she would have had a way to do that.
I would like to believe that too, because police can't choose which country you get imprisoned in. That was another sort of factual.
So I'm just hoping some fun hackery stuff. Even if they can't hack, they can hire hackers to change whatever cell assignments there might be. That's what I get from that.
Okay, if that's all on purpose, then I'm already liking this better.
I'm the defense. I'm going to say everything's on purpose.
I think that this is the issue. If we give them the benefit of the doubt, then it's okay. If we're not giving the benefit of the doubt, which was my first reaction seeing the film, and when I saw it a second time, I wasn't giving them the benefit of the doubt either, then I'm not into it. But I'm open to being convinced, as any good, balanced person should be, right?
Mr. Bangs, would you care to share any further exhibits that you have?
Oh, I do. So my first exhibit is Ryan Reynolds. Now, listen, I don't like olives. I don't like the taste of them. I want them kept away from my food at all times. I pick them off my pizza, my sandwiches, whatever. My stomach turns whenever Schlenzo D pours an entire can of black olives onto his breakfast cereal each morning. I don't like olives. Can't stand them. But I know people who do like olives. The aforementioned Schlenzo D, for example. Hell, apparently there's whole fucking olive bars out there where people meet and get drunk and eat olives and fuck or something. I don't know. I've never been to an olive bar. I don't like olives. So I understand the difference between I don't like olives and olives are bad. For anyone who hasn't been keeping up, Ryan Reynolds is olives. Schlenzo D puts him on his breakfast cereal every morning. Maybe some people don't like Ryan Reynolds. Maybe some people pick him off their pizza. But nobody can deny that Ryan Reynolds has been incredibly successful and that people want to see him in films, especially comedies. He's among one of the most popular celebrities in the world right now. Since his resurgence with the Deadpool franchise, wherein he played a smart alecky superhero who's always breaking the fourth wall, he's starting a flood of commercially and critically successful films, like 2021's Free Guy, where he played a smart alecky video game NPC who's always breaking the fourth wall, or 2019's Detective Pikachu, where he's a smart alecky electric mouse detective who's always breaking the fourth wall. Note to self, write the screenplay for Disney's The Great Electric Mouse Detective. Starring Ryan Reynolds. So I get it. Reynolds can be a bit one note. He's essentially been playing the same guy since Van Wilder in 2002. But it has to be apparent to everyone here that people like that note. It's what people want to see Reynolds doing. It's what they pay to see him do. People don't want to go to a Humphrey Bogart picture and not see Humphrey Bogart doing Humphrey Bogart. They want to pay their damn nickel and see the Bogart picture and see Bogart doing Bogart. If you ain't going to give me Bogart doing Bogart, I'm going to fill you up full of hot lead. That's what they said. It was the 40s. It's a thing they said. So there was a time when I think a movie star vehicle like this was the norm in Hollywood. Back in Hollywood, maybe in an effort to carve out a niche to differentiate themselves from the pack, many actors had a kind of shtick, a style of speaking, a cadence they were known for. And they basically played that exact same person in nearly every single film. See Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, Cary Grant, Peter Lorre, Vincent Price, Boris Karloff, the 1930s, the 1940s. Movie stars were that back then. They were big. As Norma Desmond would say, it was the pictures that were small. Movie stars were the stars of the movie, not the plot, not the story. The stars were the fucking stars. You paid to see Lauren Bacall doing Lauren Bacall because nobody else could Bacall like Bacall. It's what she was best at, always seeming sloshed and secretly turned on. People couldn't get enough of that until, they finally do. But that time comes for everyone. But somewhere along the line, that seemed to kind of change, right? Movie stars stopped being these larger-than-life caricatures, and they started being like real people with families and lives. They look like us. They sound like us. And I accredit a lot of the magic missing from Hollywood to this loss of bigger-than-life movie stars. Think about the biggest movie stars we have. They're mostly relics from before 2000s, like Johnny Depp, Robert Downey Jr., and really, they're a little bit closer to the bigger, larger-than-life side of the spectrum. So Reynolds, he fits this bill of a movie star. He's like this throwback. If you meet Ryan Reynolds in real life, he's probably going to sound and act just like he does in the movies. He doesn't turn off in public. If you're going to go see a Ryan Reynolds movie, you're going to get this snarky, fourth wall breaking, kind of talking to himself, muttering side chatter. That's what this movie delivers. Star power. 3 of the biggest, hottest stars working at that time, 2021. Ryan Reynolds, he's hot. He's funny. Check. The Rock, he's hot. He's strong. Check. Gal Gadot, she's hot. She's vaguely ethnic. Check. And that's what this film is. It's a vehicle for movie stars, which is another throwback concept. You know, Bogart could read the phone book as long as he did it with a cigarette dangling out of his lip.
Mr. Charney, please say something negative about Ryan Reynolds, please.
I think that my opponent has a point here.
Oh, God.
However, it doesn't necessarily make it a good film. It makes it a
I don't have to prove it's good. I only have to prove it's not bad.
That is a good distinction. Fair enough. Okay. It becomes a one-note jingle, and if you're into that jingle, then jingle away. If you're looking for a film as a film that's good in an objective sense, as opposed to the subjective, I want me some Ryan Reynolds, I'm going to eat at Olive Garden afterwards sort of system, then that's a different story. So I'm not sure what our argument is, if this is objectively a quality film, if looked at in a vacuum by like a group full of film critics, and we sort of blacked out the faces of the actors. Is that going, or the identities of them, is that going to be an objectively good film? Or is it this one-note shtick that some people will go for? And my objection would be, I like Ryan Reynolds and the other movies I saw, but I didn't like this one. So something was missing from the shtick, at least for me.
See, and now you touched on critics. I love this because the critic score in this thing is awful. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's 37%. Although I want to mention the critic consensus on Rotten Tomatoes reads, Red Notice's big budget and A-list cast add up to a slickly competent action comedy whose gaudy ingredients only make the middling results more disappointing. So you said it was slickly competent with an A-list cast and big budget, and even admitted the results to be middling, and it's 37%. 37% is not middling. 52% is middling. 48%. Not 37, that's not middling. That's just a bad score. Hell, even Wikipedia's summary of the reception says it received mixed to negative reviews from critics for its plot and screenwriting, though the performances, particularly Johnson and Reynolds, action sequences, and humor were praised. So, you know what the audience thing on this score is on this thing? 92%. 92. That is so disparate from the critic score beyond even what review inflating or padding maybe could have been done by the next Netflix corporate. If someone wanted to start that rumor, which I just did. But even with that in consideration, that is a film well received by audiences, period. Which just goes to prove the old adage, movie critics are dumb. In fact, according to Netflix, again, take their claims with a grain of salt, but what other choice do we have? The film became the most watched film on their platform within 28 days of release. It was one of the biggest streamed movies of 2021, I think top 5. So audience seemed very satisfied with the film because they got exactly what they wanted. Ryan Reynolds was funny. The Rock was huge. Gal Gadot was hot. Everyone kind of went happy. And to me, the plot, it's not going to win any Nichols fellowships, no, but it holds water. There's nothing that contradicts itself within it. It's paint by numbers. I will give you that. But I think it's entertaining enough. And I want to just touch on one point because we're running out of time on it. There's a lot of hoo-ha made over about product placement in this movie, and I can't believe some people are still bothered by product placement. E.T. was over 40 years ago, people. Let's let it go. So Ryan Reynolds and The Rock made sure their respective liquors got some very noticeable placement in some scenes. Big deal. We know they both own these endeavors. Obviously, they want to see them succeed. And we both know the personalities of the guys. They're practical jokers who are happy to squeeze shameless self-promotion in under the guise of some joke. Like if Ryan Reynolds took a giant bottle of aviation gin to the Oscars as his date, one, he's probably tried and the Academy has stopped him. You can hit a man in the face of the Oscars, but you can't bring a giant gin mascot girlfriend with you as a date. But two, we can all agree it would be perfectly in keeping with his personality, his shtick. And of course, with the fourth wall breaking of Reynolds' personality, including the liquor we all know he owns because he never shuts up about it, is chef's kiss. It's so shamelessly shilly in a knowingly hilarious way. And to me, that is what about this movie. Ryan Reynolds is smart. It's all self-aware. It's knowing. And you know, The Rock, he heard Reynolds got to put his gin in the movie. He's like, oh, hell no. You're putting my tequila in the movie. And honestly, I'm surprised this film didn't feature a scene where the two go shot for shot with their own liquors against each other while discussing how good they are. That's completely in line with what we know about these celebrities. And I was just about to say, there's a great scene for the sequel because they have announced 2 sequels in development. So even if we doubt Netflix's word that the movie was as successful as they say, why the hell would Netflix ante up more money to make more of these things if they weren't confident people would see them? And with that, I'll rest.
Thank God. All sides have rested their cases. The attorneys will now present their closing arguments. Mr. Charney, you may begin.
You're going to pay for that one, Ryan.
So I think that what we have here is a situation where the critics are either dumb or too smart for this movie. As someone objecting to the film, I will volunteer the idea that maybe we're too smart for it, but
good call. Good call.
I think if you are coming at this from the angle of looking for a film objectively that's good as a film, and that doesn't seem to get things wrong accidentally, then we have a film that is objectively mediocre. I'm not going to say it's bad in the way that some films are cataclysmically bad, but the first time I tried to watch it, I turned it off halfway through because I was kind of bored, and that I never do. So I have a feeling we have a split consensus, and if you ask the man on the street, then they are likely to say, yeah, it was fun, why not? And then if you ask someone who has some sort of level of expertise, either about film or about some of the specializations within this film, so the art world or art crime or criminal investigation, then we tend to get annoyed by things that are incorrect and don't seem to be incorrect to the benefit of the plot. So I think we have a split here. And, you know, this happens too. I never watched Eurovision because I'm American until I moved to Europe, but you have a very big split between, there's a grading system that the expert judges who are part of the music industry first give out the points, and then you think some song is going to win, and then you get the popular vote, and it completely changes everything because the popular vote almost never has any relation to the expert vote. And I think that's what we're dealing with here. So yeah, if it made money for them, fire it up. You know, go for it. I won't be watching the sequels. I'll be at the Olive Garden taking shots of tequila and gin. But
that sounds. I'm going to be with you, Noah. I'm going to be with you.
You can pass me all your olives, man. It's all good. I'm gonna say actively bad. Maybe I think it's doing something that I didn't like, even though I like the component parts of it. And I just so wanted it to be better because I always want to like these things if they're within my field. And this just fell short for me. But, you know, making money all the way to the bank like Dan Brown books do, you know, they're having the last laugh.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bangs, please present your closing argument.
Your Honor, distinguished members of the court, in lieu of my closing argument today, I'd instead like to share with you all a poem penned by beloved children's author and past collaborator of mine, the one, the only, Dr. Noose. It's entitled Stole Eggs and Gin, and it's featured in Dr. Noose's book, One Notice, Two Notice, Red Notice, Blue Notice. That red notice, I do not like that red notice. That's you, Noah. This is me. Do you like stole eggs and gin? I do not like stole eggs and gin. I do not like them. You won't win. Would you like them in your face? I would not like them in my face. I would not like them any place. I do not like stole eggs and gin. I do not like them. You won't win. Would you watch them sitting down? Would you watch them with a clown? I would not watch them sitting down. I would not watch them with a clown. I do not want them in my face. I would not like them any place. I do not like stole eggs and gin. I do not like them. You won't win. Would you watch them on a boat, captained by Gal Gadot? I would not watch them on a boat, captained by Gal Gadot. I would not watch them sitting down. I would not watch them with a clown. I would not like them in my face. I would not like them any place. I do not like stole eggs and gin. I do not like them. You won't win. Would you watch them 2 more times? committing all their snarky crimes. I would not watch them 2 more times committing all their snarky crimes. I would not watch them on a boat captained by Gal Gadot. I would not watch them sitting down. I would not watch them with the clown. I would not like them in my face. I would not like them any place. I do not like Stole Eggs and Gin. I do not like them. You won't win. You do not like them. Is that right? Watch them, and you might. Watch them, and you might. All right. Maynard, if it shuts your yap, I will watch your hollow crap. Hey, I do like Stole Eggs and Gin. I know Cap liked them, so you win. I would watch them 2 more times committing all their snarky crimes. I would watch them on a boat captained by a Gal Gadot. I would watch them sitting down. I would watch them with a clown. I would like them in my face. I would like them any place. I do so like Stole Eggs and Gin. Thank you, Maynard. Now you win.
Oh, wow.
Are you done?
That is done, yeah. I thought you were going to stop me. I was ready to filibuster.
I was trying to
argue with that, really.
Oh my god.
That's like the Chewbacca defense from South Park.
Thank you. Well, at least thank one of you. Members of the jury, Mr. Big Ben Haslar, Mr. Dylan J. Schlender, and Mr. Why are you wearing the hairnet? You're bald. Ryan Luis Rodriguez, even though you can see here that I have such luscious hair.
It's an audio show, Ryan. No one hears.
You have all heard the facts concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict.
Right this way. You know, to me, The Rock peaks somewhere around Star Trek Voyager. It's true. Look it up.
Yeah, it's true. He is in there. That's excellent.
Well, this was a long case, thanks to Maynard's dramatic reading of a very famed and beloved book. So we'll have to...
And that was trimmed down for 20 minutes. My God.
So we have maybe a couple minutes here. I think, the base case argues down to: are you wanting something that makes sense, something that was written to, be good as a film on its own from a script perspective, or are you in it just because these guys are in it? For me, that's kind of a hard thing to swallow because, I don't like Ryan Reynolds. I'm okay with Ryan Reynolds, but I get the olive argument. In this thing, he is funny, but he has the semblance of funny with his tone, but the script isn't there. So, nothing really makes me laugh on the level of like the clever writing of Deadpool or some of his other projects might have. The Rock, not so much. He's okay. I don't hate him. Gal Gadot, same thing. Nothing against her, but so this is a film that is invented just because, hey, we want to Netflix and chill. We don't want to think at home. We just, hey, is Ryan Reynolds palatable for you for an evening? Sure, let's turn it on. Mr. Schlender, what do you think?
Well, I thought we had some interesting arguments. I always love when we can have an expert in like Noah and he can point out the factual inaccuracies. It's redolent of the Last Samurai case, but I think Maynard was wise to frankly sidestep that stuff and say, oh yeah, this is just a star vehicle. You are here for the stars. And so that puts all the weight on what those stars are doing and the actual vehicle itself.
Does that get you to not bad, just having these 3 people?
Well, not me personally. However, it's not a completely unconvincing argument, I must say. But like a jalopy is a vehicle, like a razor scooter on the highway is a vehicle, so like, I just don't know if even with the star power, the component parts are strong enough to get it out of bad. I'd love to hear what you have to think, Ryan.
Well, I've made it clear on multiple occasions that Ryan Reynolds is the only Ryan that I can't support. I like to stick up for my fellow Ryans, but I can't go there with Ryan Reynolds. He annoys the piss out of me. Dwayne Johnson, fine, whatever. I was actually surprised that I enjoyed Gal Gadot, because she actually looks like she's having fun, whereas everybody else looks like they're putting in a job. Like, this is definitely a Netflix movie. It's something you put on in the background when you do chores. It's not cinema. It's content. Mm-hmm. And watching it, I was amazed. Like, this costs $200 million for this garbage. Like, I fucking hated it. I hate this movie. It pulls the double cross card so many times that it loses all meaning. It has Ed Sheeran in it. For God's sake, Ed Sheeran is in this movie. I didn't even know that I've beat up heard an Ed Sheeran song, except maybe at the drugstore. I hate this movie. I hate this movie.
But you have to be objective, Mr. Juror, so we're based on the facts.
Nothing like an objective judge.
He's a juror now, different guy.
But based on the facts and the facts alone, Mr. Rodriguez, where are you locking?
I cannot support this film in no way whatsoever. I'm not going to do a stupid Dr. Seuss rhyme to explain why I can't do it because I can't think of anything. But this is guilty, man. This is so guilty.
Mr. Schlender?
All right. My instinct is that I did not enjoy this movie. This movie would be olives for me, using Maynard's analogy. And I think it's bad if star vehicles are going to be moving in this direction. However, that would be the intent. So I really appreciate the nuances of Maynard's argument for this. Noah's expertise notwithstanding, which I'm very interested in and very appreciative of. Based on the case, I think I'm going to go not guilty and throw it to you, Ben.
I do like Maynard's case. As far as defense attorneys go, he's been handled some cases that I thought he had no chance of winning, and he always seems to manage to get me to scratch my head a little bit. And okay, I guess I can see that. There is some merit to what you're saying there. And the star vehicle thing, I do get it. You get 3, you get Humphrey Bogart. I don't like the idea of that being a bar for it's automatically good. If you have 3 people that are competent, automatically it's fine to pass our courtroom. The script is not there. The twist I saw coming from a mile away.
The twist was atrocious.
There's 3 of them. They keep coming, and you keep knowing the movie can't end now. The momentum's not out, so I know that there's another one coming, and there it is. The eggs being made up. If they just, I like Indiana Jones with the Ark of the Covenant as opposed to
that's made up too, Ben.
Oh well, I mean it has historical background as opposed to something completely made up like Tomb Raider, doing stuff. So I think it would have been better if they actually took the time to write a script that made sense without who was starring in it. So I think that while it does sort of nudge it just right against the border of bad, having 3 people that people like, it is just there to be a product for people to lay on the couch with their honey with and chill to. So guilty.
Okay.
Tell that very handsome judge.
Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of the People versus Red Notice, we find the defendant guilty of being a bad movie.
Just wait till the stone gets his hands on you.
The verdict is so rendered. Red Notice is hereby sentenced to 4 sequels to feature Ed Sheeran in a more significant role. Court is adjourned.
Even when I lose, I win, baby.
Oh, this is the Nacho Man, reporting to you live from outside the Reels of Justice. Noah Charney, would you care to share your thoughts on the jury's verdict? Oh, yeah.
I'm just delighted it came off with a victory because it was pretty tight in there. I thought the defense's arguments were very strong. Johnny Cochran's arguments in the O.J. Simpson trial were a good example of the direction he was headed in.
I love it.
I thought it was really comes down to what you're looking for in a film, and maybe talking about the difference between a film and a movie. And we tend to use those terms interchangeably, but a film ostensibly is something that seeks to be a work of art and seeks to be something of doing something new, something that's well made, that exhibits skill on the part of the various people working at the film, and it's interesting. Whereas a movie is something that's just there for entertainment, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I've seen plenty of movies that were much more entertaining than this. So to me, it loses on all counts, but if you're a Ryan Reynolds fan, and if you're into olives, then, dig out.
Thank you. And here comes the stone. I'm gonna jalapeno pile driver you right through the steps. Get over here, you love.
Shut your mouth, jabroni. You should know that the Nacho Man is already an existing character in the WWF universe. So...
but I am intellectually distinct.
No, the Nacho Man already exists. I'm not gonna lose any sleep over this. I liked the movie. I mean, when Ben described it as being as bad as Saving Christmas, I'm like, oh no, what could they possibly do? Are they putting Gal Gadot in really bulky clothes? But no, I watched it and it was a fine movie. I mean, it was a popcorn movie, and even as Noah said, there's a difference between film, movie. I was supposed to prove that it wasn't a bad movie, but the jury is corrupt, as they usually are, probably because they had no one to Netflix and chill with. Oh, and I got to write Dr. Seuss, so that's okay.
Well, Maynard Bangs, thank you very much. That's all we have from the courthouse today. Let's go back to the studio for post-trial analysis.
You listeners at home could not see Dylan's face, and it was delightful.
I couldn't see it either. I had to have the script up, so
The
I'll
film,
watch it later.
I mean, the footage of this exists, and in one day it might even come out, but I don't know. We don't really have a plan
maybe.
to.
Nope. No, it's
long
not.
case, great case. Let's jump in. Noah, great job. What has
done,
been keeping
sir.
you busy? What have you been up to lately?
Well, this was a really good opportunity for me because I literally am finishing a book that I'm writing with my father, who's a big film guy. It's called The 12-Hour Film Expert. And it's meant to be a one-stop book for people who would like to know about the story of film, how films are made, and basically have a deeper experience watching films, whether it's for entertainment or for art. But maybe people who aren't taking film studies classes, film appreciation, and don't want those big fat books written by proper critics. So this is an approach I've taken with other books. I have a book called The 12-Hour Art Expert that came out last year. And one of my shticks as a professor is I'm kind of like a pop professor. I try to reach the widest possible audience. I'm totally not interested in writing peer-reviewed academic articles. That's like totally snoozer for me. So I'm looking to introduce people to a level of depth that they might not otherwise have been interested in or thought they were interested in, because this stuff is often presented in an intimidating way. And I think that that's really lame. We should make things accessible to everyone who wants to meet them halfway. So for me, this was fun because I've actually never written in depth about film before, aside from a few articles here and there. And this book we just finished, it'll come out next year. And I'm really delighted to have the chance to like flex a little muscles. I write about art crime and art history regularly. I have a book that's coming out in the fall called The Thefts of the Mona Lisa, which I imagine is the plot vehicle for the sequel to this film.
Nice.
So, but for me, this is all just gravy. I also teach some online courses with Atlas Obscura, one on art theft, one on art forgery. So this stuff to me is great fun. And having been on the other side of the camera for Ancient Aliens, for example, then I have more of an appreciation for the film now that I heard Rob's arguments for it than I did before. So hats off to Rob, especially like knocking it out of the park with the Dr. Seussian closing.
I was going to
That
say, if
really
you
well done.
want to write one of your peer reviews in iambic tetrameter, like I did,
it's actually haven't already.
It's a lot of fun. And I'm going to shameless plug for a minute. If you haven't heard my fuller length Dr. Seuss parody of Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train, I think you can Google it. It's called Non-Acquaintances on the Conveyances. And it's like 30 minutes of, most of it's written in anapestic tetrameter, which is like the Grinch and Cat in the Hat, which is way harder to write.
Quality tetrameter.
Yeah,
I love anapestic with garlic. It's delicious.
It is delicious. But
Mamma mia.
What I had to write today was iambic tetrameter, and that's luckily really easy. All right. Well, we always ask for recommendations from our guests for movies that you think people should see. So what is a movie that you think people should see?
The best one for me, and one of the reasons that I turned to this field of study, was the new version of the Thomas Crown Affair. It's so slick, stylish, well done. It only cheats in one moment in the film. Maybe I won't say what that moment is, so people who can watch it might guess, that having watched it many times, and sometimes even assigning it to my students, everything is acceptable, accurate, fun twist, surprising, except for one thing that cheats, where there isn't an explanation for it if you rewatch the film. It's just so slick and a lot of fun. And I love heist and caper movies. The difference being caper movies are meant to be funny, heist movies are meant to be primarily action and drama. What we saw today, what Red Notice is a caper movie that isn't quite doing the caper as well as we would like, but it's a genre that I find really interesting. But I would point anyone towards the new version of the Thomas Crown Affair. It's completely masterful, and really probably the main reason that I initially turned to studying the story of art theft.
Cool. And then who's slicker than Pierce Brosnan, right?
He's the man.
Now, Noah will hopefully appreciate my recommendation this week, Ryan too, because it stars Ryan Reynolds, but he isn't doing his normal Ryan Reynolds thing. So the movie fucking bombed, which just goes to prove the old adage, never do anything different. Horror movie from 2005 answers to the name of the Amityville Horror.
Oh, I like it.
A remake of the 1979 classic, it follows a newlywed family that moves into a huge, haunted as fuck house, the site of mass murder and genocide. It's a feel-good picture. This is one of those remakes I feel comfortable saying is just as good as the original, because as fun as the 79 one is, it hasn't aged well. And while there are plenty of improvements to be made to the 2005 version, Ryan Reynolds' gangbusters fucking performance is not one of them. He is 100% horrifying as demonically possessed patriarch George Lutz, a role that is a dramatic departure from his now almost universally loved shtick. He's a tad snarky towards the beginning of the film, but that's actually perfect because it serves as a baseline for his fun-loving, easygoing personality, which contrasts sharply with the vacant-eyed, child-murdering maniac he becomes as the house corrupts him. Oh, and yeah, child murdering. The movie is pretty graphically violent, hence the R rating, so if stuff like child murder bugs you, here's your trigger warning.
Thank you.
Should have put a trigger warning about the trigger warning, because it's pretty triggering too. But anyway, the Amityville Horror is currently streaming on Max.
Underrated film. Good one.
So who do we got next? We've got
The judge, Ryan.
The better
recommendation.
Hey guys.
Recommendation.
My recommendation this week concerns director Kogonada's 2021 film After Yang. The story concerns a family in the near future led by Colin Farrell, who have adopted a child from China and bought a robotic teenager, a culture unit, to help said child connect with her cultural heritage. It's a surprisingly tender science fiction picture that's like the Jetsons if Elroy was adopted and Rosie was a teenage boy. The only difference is that they live on terra firma and Colin Farrell doesn't have a spaceship that collapses into a suitcase. But it can't all be the Jetsons. It plays with the fragility of memory and allows the audience to contribute to its themes, thoughts about where we're from, where we've been, and where we're going. And in case you didn't already have my admiration by making a sad movie about robots, it features multiple shifting aspect ratios from 235 to 133 to 185, sometimes in the span of a single scene. And it's about an interracial family, obviously of importance to me. And Colin Farrell does a remarkable impression of Werner Herzog around the film's midpoint.
You got
After Yang is currently streaming on the Criterion Channel.
I'm there for the Herzog impression. I'm signed up.
I'm there for the Jetsons.
Big Bun, what do you got?
I like cinema. I think that this year has been kind of lame for movies, as I said a few times, so I want to call it the ones that I think have been really good. So there's just one left beyond today's recommendation, which is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. This is a film that has real stunts, real camera work, and looks and feels dangerous because it is. So this will keep you in the seats, just like I love the cinematic experience to be. See it in IMAX if you can, but if you haven't, you probably can't because now Oppenheimer has a hole in every single one of them. But you should still see it in the theater because really this experience cannot be replicated at home. It's not as good as Fallout. They do rip off Uncharted with that whole that train sequence, but that thrill that you feel hearing that Mission Impossible theme with that trumpet sound at the beginning, or it's not trumpet, those trills, just gets me every time. I feel chills going down my spine. So
I got trills. They're multiplying.
Boo.
Yeah, I want to see that one for sure. Yeah, I want to see it at the drive-in. I don't know if it's still there though. But I think I think that'd be a fun one. When is Tom Cruise gonna die making a movie? It's gonna happen. It is gonna happen, and I guarantee you, it's stipulated that the movie be released anyhow.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. He wants the scene where he dies. He wants it in the movie. Everyone watch me die. I'm Tom Cruise. Schlenzo, send us on.
Love that. Well, I like it when we get a genre that allows me to really stretch my legs, and in that spirit, I'm recommending the animated feature Rupert Brant Collector. This 2018 animated feature follows the eponymous psychologist Brant as he struggles with nightmares that feature prominent works of art. Enlisting the help of his criminal patients, he seeks out and steals the offending works. The movie features gorgeous animation worthy of an Oscar and a story that is sufficiently trippy, but not off-puttingly so. You see, Maynard, you can reach a few different conclusions, and they're all valid. Animation presents an opportunity to blend art and story like no other medium, and director, I'm going to butcher this, Milrad Kristic, utilizes every frame in service of his story and his vision. Prominent animated features are all running the risk of becoming so much problem as they chase after Pixar and other juggernauts in the industry, but Rupert Brant But Ruben Brandt shows there is still room for wild geese, and we are all better for it. So celebrate this animated miracle by buying it on Amazon right now. Don't stream it anywhere. Come on, Ben. I know you have all those credits saved up from delaying your deliveries. Buy it.
Nope. I need my stuff now.
It's your stuff, and you need.
I'm
it
ordering
now.
Noah's book right now, and I gotta have it.
Absolutely. And we are. Speaking of that, we are all out of show, but we want to thank our guest Noah Charney for joining us. Thank you, Noah.
It was a pleasure. This is really fun, guys, and it's a pleasure to hang out with people who are so thoughtful and intelligent about this and doing a podcast that's totally different from the many others that I'm on. So well done.
Finally, someone who agrees with my mom.
Yeah.
And
we'll have you back for sure, man.
Absolutely, we'll have you back.
Yeah.
Ocean's 13. We've already talked about it.
Yes.
And we're going to be on the lookout for your book, The 12-Hour Film Expert.
Mm-hmm.
And be on the lookout for my book, The 11-Hour Film Expert. But we hope you'll join us again, Noah, and we hope everyone else will join us too, as the reels of justice keep turning.
Count it.
Olives.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.